So today's session is actually going to be one of the most important sessions because what we are going to discuss today is the actual foundation of astrological analysis bolo or prediction bolo, whatever it is. Okay, it's the base of it all, and having that clear is very important. Otherwise, analysis gets difficult as we go along. Okay, now. Before we even dive into this chart, can all of you hear me properly? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Before we dive into this chart, let us just understand what this chart is all about and then take it up one by one. So now here, if you see, there are 7 elements over here. If you see here, there are seven elements over here. Okay. These 7 elements are the basic foundations for doing analysis or prediction. Now the thing is, these 7 I could have very easily put across 10 this thing. What is it called? Different charts. Okay, but the thing is, then you will not get a comparative understanding. So everything at one go. But don't get worried or tense because most of you must have got tense case of how to memorize this or what. Most of this you already know. It is just that I have put it in one place. That's why you are getting a little confused. But slowly we'll all be able to buy out most of it, but tab tak theek hai. So now let's start with the first one, which according to me is the most important one. Okay, so event activator. Now, like I said, that this is the first time anybody has put all this together, so there are no names or any nomenclature over here. So basically, I'm only given it some name, whatever it is. Okay, so event activator of and by native. Uska matlab kya samajh lo? This is one of the most important facet of the entire calculation. Okay. So what I will do is I will take a blank chart and I'll explain on this. Now, what we have said here is event activator of and by of or by native. Okay. Just understand this. Event activator. Okay. What this basically means is each house, any house that you take, let's say we are taking a Kalpurush Kundi, any house is related to all the other 11 houses in some way or the other. That is the basic background of this entire thing. So let us just understand first very roughly based on a Kalpurush Kundli, and then we will take it to the next step. So when we say that first house, it means that the native himself, correct? Everything to do with the native. The second house is the income of the native, the family of the native, correct? The food habits, the speech, all those things come into second house, the face, whatever. The third house from the first house is his younger siblings, documentation, paperwork, communication, all those things. Fourth one, when we say it is his mother, his home atmosphere, luxuries, comforts, etc., etc. Fifth one, when we say it is basically his small-time investments, his children, his affairs, gambling, all those things come here. When we talk about sixth from the first, we are talking about Rog, Rin, and Shatru, disease, any loans or debts, enemies, okay, so on and so forth. Even the body parts, everything come into play. That you are aware of most of the things. I'll give you the short end. Seventh one, when we say it is the opposite person, the spouse, daily income, all those things. When we talk of 8, it is basically the accidents, obstructions, surgeries, all those things. When we talk of 9, it is basically Kismat, the father, religious travels, all those things. When we talk of 10, it is basically the career, his occupation, government, all those things. 11, when we say it is the gains from career, friends, circles, all those things, desire fulfillment. And when we talk of 12, it is either foreign settlement or it is loss, hospitalization, all those things. Correct? Now, when we talk of this, and we are sort of moving this now. I don't know whether this will move like that, but when I do this, now I can't do it properly, but you should understand what I'm trying to get at. Then the same thing goes ahead. When I move this to the next one, third say, are you understanding? So basically what we are trying to say over here is that any house is related to the next to it, the third to it, the fourth to it, so on and so forth in that same relation. Now let us take some simple examples and sort of work more on it. So let us talk about income, expense or loss. Okay. Let us talk about illness. Let us talk about obstacles. Let us talk about gains. And let's talk about, okay, these many. Let's just take these many cases. So when we talk of income, which house do we look at? 2, correct? When we look at expenses or loss, which one do we look at? 12. I've purposely drawn this line for a reason, you'll understand just now. Illness 6, obstacles 8, gains 11, correct? Are we clear over here? Now, if you see this is a very important facet in calculation, okay? The second house to any house is the gain to it, the income. When we say self-earned income, जो तुमने कमाया है, अभी तुम कमाया है तो सिर्फ money, पैसा is only one facet, but there are so many things you can earn, no? Whatever. वैसे the house preceding it is the negating house. It is the negating house. This one enhances, this one negates, plus minus. So if we see any damn house, okay, let's look at sixth house. Sixth house अपन क्या बोलते हैं? Illness. 1 minute, that will be a little difficult. I'll take that up a little later. Let us say fifth house. Fifth house is the house of kids. Sixth house will be the income of the kids. Fourth house will be the expenses of the kids. So what the kid is going to spend, so to say. Okay. Now, any house that you take, there will always be a plus and minus to it. So if you take, let us say ninth house, this is the father. This is the income of the father. This is the loss of the father. Are you understanding? So this component becomes a very important thing. Any house that you're looking at, any Karak Tattva that you're looking at, the next house becomes the plus to the Karak Tattva, the one before that becomes minus to the Karak Tattva. So going back to the difficult one which I had initially taken, sixth one, why I did take it up, you'll understand just now. This is illness, correct? So the negating house over here, does it become a bad house or a good house? Illness को negate करता है यानी cure हो गया ना, remedy हो गया. And ये उसको बढ़ोतरी दे रहा है तो it is getting more ill. So let's say this is like saying like this, more ill, and this is like saying plus plus. This is a very important point which I just realized a couple of days back, which I wanted to share with you. This is the main secret of it all. So if we look at 8th house, obstacles, the 7th house is the anti-obstacles. So it becomes your savior. This house becomes the it enhances the obstacle. So it is your enemy. One step further जाते हैं.
Manish, can I ask something? अभी ये 8th से for example you are saying 8th का 7th और 9th का relation ये समझा, पर 8th मतलब यदि 8th में उदयम है तो या
No, this is nothing to do with उदयम or anything. This is a general rule for all astrology.
तो for example अभी हर एक house का मैं देखूंगी तो 8th में से for example sun है, ठीक है, तो actually sun है.
The house. It is a negating house and a positive house. Then planets come in later on. What is your
But
question? Tell me.
still, see, ये समझ में आ गया है, whatever you are trying to tell कि ये इसका ये हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, okay? But मतलब मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा है कि से हमने ये एथ हाउस ही पकड़ा. इन जनरल एनीथिंग इन एथ हाउस इज एथ हाउस, हमें पता है कि इट्स ऑल अबाउट ऑब्स्टेकल ये वो. तो यहाँ पर इफ यू से कि बाय डिफॉल्ट एथ है मतलब वहां पे मार्स है या
कौन
वॉट एवर
बोला?
द प्लैनेट वॉट इन उच्च है. सो वॉट एवर द प्लैनेट इज, मतलब व्हाई आर वी डूइंग दिस एक्सरसाइज. मुझे आई गॉट द एक्सरसाइज पर इसका पर्पस क्या होता है.
This is the very basic of the entire thing, because if you're not understood, is that difficult. Eighth house, अगर कोई भी, if eighth house is the obstacle house,
हाँ.
which is the house which will help it? Tell me, in astrology, where is it given? House is helpful. If eighth house is your obstacle, either Mars बैठे, whatever you want to call it, Mars बैठे, Sun बैठे, जो भी बैठे,
हाँ.
इसको भूल ही जाओ.
सेवेंथ हाउस उसको सपोर्ट देगा, नाइन्थ हाउस उसको
उसको सपोर्ट नहीं
तकलीफ
देगा,
देगा.
सेकंड निगेट करेगा. एट्थ हाउस और नाइन्थ हाउस उसको पॉजिटिव करेगा, एनहांस करेगा. You're not understanding the basics only. If first house is the house, second house the income, म्हणजे उसका प्लस है ना. 12th house is what, the negating house, ना.
बट अभी हमने सिक्स का कैसे किया. हमने अभी सिक्स्थ हाउस में क्या किया. इट इज ऑल अबाउट इलनेस. ठीक है.
तो इलनेस का निगेटिंग, यानी इलनेस बढ़ा रहा है कि कम कर
पॉजिटिव, कम कर रहा है.
और ये उसको बढ़ा रहा है कि कम कर रहा है.
ये उसको बढ़ा रहा है तो ये खराब हो रहा है. तो एथ के साथ भी तो यही होना चाहिए, बिकॉज एथ इज ऑल्सो काइंड ऑफ एन ऑब्स्टेकल. तो उसका निगेटिंग जो है सेवेंथ हाउस, वो उसको सपोर्ट देगा कि वो कम करेगा.
You're making a complete confusion over here.
Sorry, but
you're forgetting. If eighth house is the house of obstacles, this is the negating house, ना. अगर ऑब्स्टेकल को निगेट कर रहा है, निकाल रहा है, तो वो ऑब्स्टेकल को मदद कैसे करेगा. ये ऑब्स्टेकल को रिमूवल है. सो दिस इज अ प्लस हाउस फॉर द एट्थ हाउस, because this is an obstacle.
That is what even I am saying कि seventh house उसको support दे रहा है, मतलब उसको उसके लिए helpful है. and ninth is उसके लिए problem create करेगा.
नहीं, Rashmi, I think we will discuss later, because you're not understanding one thing. जो उसके पहले वाला घर है उसका नेगेटिव है, जो उसके आगे वाला घर है पॉजिटिव. If this is eighth house here, उसको पीछे वाला घर है उसका निगेटिव है ना, उसको निगेट कर रहा है. ये उसको बढ़ा रहा है. Not understood? All of you are confused on this, or only Rashmi is confused on this?
No, I think I got it. I think
it's
you're
1 minute. You're actually total waste. If this is a house, एक simple करो, the 12th house to a house is a negating house. ये लिख लो, negating house. The second house to it is enhancing house, because this is your income. By income you are getting something. This is your expense, you are depleted of that. So any house you take, that's why I took 6 and then I went to a simpler house. So when we talk about 5, if you talk about kid, 6 is the enhancing house. एक उसका आगे वाला. So this is the enhancing house. So this is the income of the kid, correct? The पीछे वाला is the negating house. Negating house is what? Expense. So this is the expense of the kid, correct? Now this was a positive house. Now if I take a negative house, let us say 6 is the illness. तो 6 के पीछे वाला 12th हाउस इज द निगेटिंग हाउस. तो अगर इलनेस को निगेट करे तो कौन निगेट करेगा. इलनेस को खत्म करे तो कौन करेगा. द क्योर ना. सो दिस इज द क्योर. और ये उसको एनहांस कर रहा है. अगर इलनेस को एनहांस करे में क्या और बीमार कर रहा है. If you all have not understood this, no, frankly speaking, going ahead with that entire thing, you will not make any sense, because this is a totally highly complicated thing. That if this basic ABCD all are not understood, then it is difficult. If you are not understood this, then आगे जाने में कुछ मतलब ही नहीं है. All of you are on the same platform.
No, I think I understood. So are we seeing this
Yes.
from the point of view of if we are seeing the solution, जिस उसमें भी problem है, wherever in the chart there is Kavipu or a problem, for that we can see the 12th house to it as
Udayam Kavi को अभी मत पकड़ो. I am just making this foundation for you. This whether you do Nadi, this thing you do Parashari, you do Lal Kitab, you do Jamakul, you do any damn thing. This is the base of it all. That's what
Okay.
I'm telling you. The secret of astrology which has suddenly come up.
Okay.
Preeti, when you want to
Yeah, I understood that. Leave around all technicalities. जो भी
don't-
हम हाउस देख रहे हैं XYZ 1 2 7 जो भी है उसका प्रीसीडिंग क्या कर रहा है और सक्सीडिंग क्या कर रहा है.
बस
एक
उतना ही.
एनहांस कर रहा है, एक निगेट कर रहा है.
What I
लेकिन
will-
अगर
Huh? What I
लेकिन
will
अगर हाँ सॉरी बोलिए.
बोलो you continue.
समझो वो खर्चे का हाउस जो है बीच वाला, तो पीछे वाला क्या कर रहा है, खर्चा कम कर रहा है, आगे वाला उसको बढ़ा रहा है. ये देखने का एक एनहांस कर रहा है. Succeeding house is enhancing. So if I'm looking at a house of expense, the house after it will be enhancing the खर्चा, और preceding will be खर्चे को कम करेगा. Correct?
Correct. एक simple अभी first of all of you totally blank of your mind. Don't come with some preconceived ideas. You'll get confused. एक ही ध्यान में रखो, like what Preeti has correctly said. पीछे वाला हाउस निगेट है. कैसे अभी ध्यान में रखने का, what I told you लाल किताब 2 years back also. पीछे से कोई लात मारेगा तुमको, आगे से उल्टा लात नहीं मार सकते. नॉर्मल पर्सन विल नॉट किक बिहाइंड. पीछे से आके लात मारेगा. आगे का आदमी unless he knows how to give a back kick, he will not kick you behind. So back fellow kicks, front fellow pulls you towards him. Imagine you are standing in the middle. There is one person standing in front of you. There is one person standing at the back of you. Who will kick you? तुम्हारी नजर सामने वाले पे तो वो मारेगा ही नहीं. तुम्हारी पीठ के पीछे वही तुमको पीछे लात मारेगा ना. So पीछे वाला लात मारता है. So he is causing destruction to you. आगे वाला क्या कर रहा है? He is pulling you ahead. So वो तुम्हारा enhance कर रहा है. If you can just understand this, you will understand that. Now what Preeti said is correct. What I have been saying the same thing. What is the main seed? उसको देखो and then plus or minus पकड़ लो ना. If let us say it is me, it is my income, then second house is adding to my income. 12th house is my depleting my income. मुझे expense कर रहा है. Okay. If I am talking about me and I am talking about my health, the पीछे वाला fellow is depleting my illness. 1 minute, sorry, let me take health only. If I am talking of health, पीछे वाला fellow is depleting my health. That's why if 1 number है तो 12th number is hospitalization. And second house is enhancing my this thing. Now if I look at that same thing in the 6th house of mine, 6th house of mine is my illness. So 5th house is what to the 6th? It is the 12th to the 6th. उसके preceding house है. तो मेरे जो illness है उसको negate कर रहा है. Illness को negate कर रहा है यानी क्या cure कर रहा है. That's why 5th house is house of remedy. If 6th house is house of my illness and 7th house is the second to it and it is enhancing it, मैं जो मेरे बीमारी को enhance कर रहा है. So basically what I was coming to is, if let us say today मेरे को सर्दी है, so 7th house के जो planets है वो मुझे बताने वाले कि ये सर्दी से bronchitis होने वाला है कि सर्दी से और कुछ होने वाला है और something else. That is where the planets are all coming, but that is much later on. That's why I didn't want to get the planets in. Just basic concept समझ लो. What I wanted to do in this entire thing was, which we have now spent more than half of that first lot only, is that I just wanted you to get a concepts clear, simple. ध्यान में रखो. Don't make too many complicated things. This is the secret of astrology. Should we proceed or should we stop it at this point? Because I'm totally lost now here. Are you understanding what is happening now? ये point पे समझ में आए तो आगे जा सकते हैं, तो forget about it, because then the other things will become totally bouncer for you. Then at the moment से ABCD खेलते बैठो.
अच्छा.
Manish, it is very easy to understand.
मग तेच मला कळत नाही. It's such a basic simple thing. Why are we spending 25 minutes?
For example, if 9th house is father, then 8th house. is 12th to 9th house. So 12th
that's
house is
exact-
loss
of the father.
of the father, and 10th house is second to 9th house. So it is some gain income to the father.
Exactly. Bas.
If you take any house, the house ahead will be the second house, and the house behind it will be the 12th house.
Correct. Exactly. That's all that there is to it. So I'm repeating it now once and for all. Any house that you take, look at the immediate piche wala, immediate aage wala. That's all I'm saying. The piche wala is a negating house, aage wala is a positive house. Any house you take, iska aage wala house is the enhancing house, piche wala is the negating house. Okay. Now, this was point 1 which we just discussed. Now, if you see this, if 1 is me, 9 is what? My father or the native's
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
Now, all these things which come into play, if 6th house is my house of illness or the native's house of illness, what would be father's house of illness? This 6
Yeah.
to the 9, this would be the father's illness. Are you all understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
8th from the 9th, that is 7th, 8th, 9th, 7th, 8th. If you remember, I told you how to see. Don't go on counting like illiterate person on the fingers. This is the 8th to the 9th. That becomes the father's obstacles, operations, accidents in life. 9 से 11th पकड़ लो, so that is the gains of the father. Now, you just go one step back. Here I said that this is the loss of the father, correct? Now, this loss of the father का भी ऐसे पकड़ लो तो ये gain of the father हो गया ना, anti हो गया ना उसका. If this is father, this is loss of the father. ये loss of the father को negate करने वाला मुझे क्या हो गया? Gain of the father हो गया ना. समझ में आ रहा है क्या? All alternate houses will be gain and ये एक पीछे से लात मारे एक आगे से खींच रहे हैं, वो फिर लात मारे आगे वाला खींच रहा है ऐसे.
And house number 5 can be said to be grandfather.
Father's father, my grandfather, correct.
Grandfather.
Because this is 9th from the 9th. That is the grandfather. So I'm actually just coming to that only. So basically, if we see a relation, let's look at this way. How you need to understand is, if this is the native, this is the native's son, and this is the native's mother. Correct? So native बोला था house क्या हो गया? 1.
1.
Son बोला था house क्या हो गया? 5.
5.
Mother बोला था house हो गया क्या? 4.
Yes.
Correct? Now, if we have to see the relation between this one and his paternal grandmother, 5 से लेके 1 काउंट करने का और फिर वापस 1 से लेके 4 काउंट करने का. So basically 1 उल्टा किया मैंने. This is basically actually I wanted to see the son का grandmother ना. तो इसका this is the native म्हणजे उसका father. So from here you will have to go to the 9th one, that is the father, and वहां से 1 2 3 4, so 12 becomes the paternal grandmother. Let me make it simpler. Forget this calculation. Let us say I am the native and I want to check something related to my paternal grandmother. How do I see it? This is me. 7th, 8th, 9th, this is my father. From my father, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is my father's mother. So the 12th to this thing becomes my paternal grandmother. Okay. Now what we are doing is, this way you can find out. Otherwise, when you are, what we are coming to finally at in this, when we see this entire thing, you'll understand at that point. But just now, let me just do this. when we are talking of this house, we tend to forget that the paternal grandmother also could be one of the elements there. When we say 12th house, we are saying hospitalization, jail, expenditure, foreign travel, foreign settlement, this, that, is that, everything. But we forget that there is a grandmother here also, paternal grandmother here also. So as you go into analysis, going deeper and deeper, you will have to basically understand different features which pop up. Okay, so now if we say this house is the house in question, what are the things which crop up to your mind? 10th house is what? Career,
Yes.
government, name and fame, basic things. But do we also realize that this is the second to the 9th? So that is the father's income. ये पहला slot खत्म होने का है, and another 7-8 minute slot, and you have to come back. And let me tell you here only, 2 times only you can renew it. If this goes beyond 2 times and we still have the stamina to go it, then I'll make a new link and put it on the group. Okay, just understand, because we have spent a lot of time just on point 1 only. So here we tend to forget that it is the father's income also. You understand that? What I'm trying to get across over here is, मेरा दिमाग ही अभी सटक गया. ये जो when we look at any house, you have to look at it from various angles. What are those angles? Is this. So when you see this house, these are all the components that you will need to see it from. From this angle, 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 from this angle. This angle, 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 and if at all there is anything here. I have put all the angles that you require in one place. If you just have this chart in front and you just look at it, you'll understand what it means. You understand, all of you? This is what this entire exercise is all about, that I've spent so much time on. Have you understood? Now, coming back to the main point, here I had written event activator off and by BA. Now, what does that mean? Off native and by native. Okay, like I told you, there is no precedent for this. This is my word for it. Okay, event activator. Off native. मुझे क्या बोला? What did I say? If this is the native, this is the illness of the native. This is the obstacle of the native. Barabar? Now, if we look in another way, if we just generally take this fellow, any house, okay, don't jump to conclusion. At the moment, just take small step. This house, this fellow is 8th to something, no? It will be ulta job. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is the 8th house to this guy. So it is the obstacle of this guy. Now, please understand this carefully. This is just come as a brainwave. I have not read it in any book in the last 2 years of what I've spent 12 hours a day. Kidhar bhi nahi hai. So this might be the secret to it all. Just try to understand what I'm trying to tell you. If we look at any house, okay, let me put it a simple way. If I look at this house, yahan se 8th house is my obstacle. Okay, now I'm changing the color. Take any random house and 8th from this, mein ulta jana padega. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. ये हाउस का ये 8th हो गया ना. So this, let's say this becomes me, this becomes my obstacle. So 5th house is the obstacle to the 10th house. This is not written in any book, or I don't think it's written in Jyotish also. So when we are looking at this, इसका obstacle कौन है? ये है ना. So when we are looking at this fellow, We have to understand that this fellow is damaging this guy. This 8th house is this, so in all the books it is written. But where do you see it inversely? Let me clear it for you. When we say this, if this is the house in question, this house is the 8th to which house? It is the 8th to this house, correct? So 8th house is the obstacle. So it is the obstacle to which house? To this house. We never look at it this way. We always say, iska obstacle ye hai. I don't know whether you are understanding. 1 minute, let me stop the sharing 1 minute. See, there are 5 minutes only, so I'll start it again after 5 minutes. I don't think you all have understood this, what I was saying right just now.
Understood.
No, understood.
Okay, all of you understood? Okay, let me still say it in a simpler way. If this is the main seed, iska obstacle ye hai, correct? So when we see this, we see, okay, this is me, this is my obstacle. This is a typical thing, which is a part of astrology only, so it's nothing great. Problem किधर आता है मालूम है? When we are concentrating on this house, we say that यहाँ से 8th is its obstacle. But ये किसका obstacle है? That we never take. This is 8th to something, वो उसका obstacle है. So this इसका obstacle 8th house है, and यहाँ से जो 6th house है, that becomes the 8th to this fellow. So that becomes, this is the obstacle to that guy. I'll show you again, then you'll understand. Let me put it in a different way. Let's say this is the thing in question, okay? This is the house in question. We are analyzing this house for whatever reasons. इसका obstacle कौन है? 7th, 8th. This is the obstacle to this fellow, correct? This fellow is hitting him, obstacle. Correct? Understood? But ये जो है, this fellow is the
Manish.
obstacle to which one?
Manish? Manish?
Sorry. मैं उल्टा किया.
Yeah.
I did do
Yeah.
उल्टा. 1 minute.
Wanted to, yeah.
My pencil needs charging. Just 1 minute.
Manisha, obstacle to 5th house will be
No, no.
12th house.
No.
Yeah.
If this is the house in question, iska 7th, 8th, this house becomes the obstacle to this fellow, correct? This is hitting it.
Yes.
But let me change the color. ये जो house है, this is obstacle to which house? तो यहाँ से उल्टा जाओ फिर. So basically, if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. यहाँ से अगर count करो तो 7 and 8. So this guy is the obstacle to this house, which is never seen in astrology. I have never heard any of these fellows talk also कि ये किसका obstacle है. Because when we are talking this, let us say you are talking about a child's marriage, let us say. So child's marriage is going to cause an obstacle to what? To this 10. तो ये कौन सा भाव है? इसके अंदर कौन-कौन planet बैठे? इसका राशि लॉर्ड कौन है? All that will come. फिर ये ascendant से कौन सा भाव है? That will all make a difference. Are you understanding that?
Yes.
So in short, when I said this, event activator of and event activator by native. Event activator of native is that 6th house, 8th house. वो उसका event activate कर देते ना. If this is the native, the 8th house will activate the obstacles of the native. The 6th house will activate the illness of the native. Correct? But by the native, this fellow creates an obstacle for whom? This fellow. Because ये इसका उल्टा 7 है, पीछे है. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. ये किसका illness का कारण बन सकता है? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. मेरा माउस ये खत्म हो गया. But ये जो 8th house है, first house becomes an illness to the 8th house, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Have you all understood? Ami, you have understood? You are quiet. Someone, you can just do this.
No, understood. Yeah.
It's going to go off. You'll have to come back in again.
Yeah.
So, two things, in case it stays on, two things we have understood just now. That the 12th of a house and the second of the house. 12th is the negating one, second is the enhancing one. Clear? I think let's go out and come in back again before it ends. Let's start.